Speaking of powerful, independent and wonderful women, to join us now. Kristy McSweeney, of course, the Principal Counsel of the PR Council. Kristy Abram, who is a libertarian to her heart. Hi. Both of these ladies are about freedom. How are you?
Great. Great to be here.
Good to have you back, Paul.
Good stuff. I love it when it's in stereo. Lovely ladies. All right, so let's talk about what's happening in Victoria right now. So there's a treaty negotiation happening between the Victorian government and Indigenous peoples. We've spoken about some of what were the apparent demands, which among other things have been, Indigenous people don't have to pay council rates, Indigenous people can have access to a whole collection of financial issues. But at the very heart of this is, of course, what is the government willing to negotiate on? And Kristy, they have said previously, look, anything's up for grabs, everything's on the table, but we don't know what's on the table and we don't know what is being negotiated. In fact, here is Jacinta Allan talking about it today.
Today is an historic day for our state, for our strong Victorian community. And it's historic because we're about to embark on treaty negotiations that will make our strong state even stronger, even fairer, even more equal for all Victorians.
A state that, by the way, as we know, the O system is currently down to paper and pen. But Kristy, surely we have to know what is being negotiated here, don't we?
Well, I think the Federal Labor Party demonstrated that they don't want Australians to know, or Australians don't need to know any details in terms of major decisions that the government seeks to enact on their behalf or get them to vote for. So that's been run already and it lost. And of course, the next election in Victoria is not coming forward to 2026, November 2026. We've got a long way to run in terms of these big ideas that don't necessarily have any details behind them. I think that is what politics is these days with some quarters. Of course, I will say this. I read that press release. I've read the Victorian Treaty Authority website. I've listened to the Premier and I've read that transcript. I can't understand anything that she is saying. Yeah. It is not communicated, let alone not having any details. And I will say this, Paul, 1 in 10 Indigenous children in Victoria are likely to be removed from their home. And Indigenous reports tell us that in Victoria and actually around Australia, only 6% of child protection budgets go towards supporting out-of-home care for kinship and cultural reasons for Indigenous children. Fix that. Fix your budgets before you announce great esoteric ideas that don't make sense and don't help one Indigenous Victorian.
Kristen, again, I'm trying to go best case scenario on this, okay? If they wanted to tell us up front that a percentage of all tax revenue will go for this reason and, then okay, that's the starting point and we at least understand, right? We know what we can argue in and around. But if there's no daylight on this process, what do we do?
Well, I'm not surprised that there's no daylight on this process or any other process that the government gets up to these days. But I feel as though we need to take a step back from all of this that's going on. We've had The Voice and now we have the Victorian government talking about a treaty. I was in year 6 when Kevin Rudd said sorry and he acknowledged the past of Australia and Australia's history. And I remember when the teacher wheeled in the television for us to watch that historic moment. And I remember in year 6 thinking how good, for us to acknowledge the past and move forward together as one. That's what it was meant to do. It was meant to bring us all together. Now, that same year 6 Kristen used to get really upset when people used to say, "Where are you from?" And I would always turn around and say, "Australia, I'm Australian." Because I was proud, and I am proud to be an Australian. But you know why I got upset, Paul? It was because people were saying, "You're different." Every time they said, "Where are you from?" they would be saying to me, "You look different. You don't look like an Australian to me." And what are we doing to society and our Aboriginal, comrades by saying they're constantly different from us, by going, okay, well, we need a treaty, we need The Voice. We are all equal together, and you can't unwrite history. You can only forge a better future.
Absolutely correct.